And welcome to the Town Hall discussion for Goal 4, have a meaningful impact on the Commonwealth and the community. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the planning process and how important that has been to the entire strategic plan. We'll begin to talk about how we were designed to engage with the entire UK community, and there was an oversight of actually 4 committees. Those were the steering committee, the planning, the communications, and integration committees. The strategic plan was being reviewed periodically by key stakeholders to ensure that we were listening to diverse perspectives and also setting a direction that resonated with the entire UK community. Also specific to our group, throughout the process, we've had regular presentations and communications internally as well as external. And those were to help us with our findings and also our feedback. The Planning Committee is also comprised of faculty, staff, and students, and those are nominated across our university campus. The Planning Committee is also subdivided into 7 working groups, and each of those were designed to work with the strategic planning 8 goals, and they were to also get the reports and also recommendations. And each of the working groups has 2 co-chairs. The work group charge, what were we actually supposed to be doing? First, we were going to review and research, review the research and benchmark, identify and conduct additional research as needed, and also use a set of guiding questions, and also for our particular group, discussions with community members to identify the strategic priorities and also key actions. We also were looking at key metrics, which you will not get a chance to see today because those are fluid and we're still in the process of working on those. We also were going to be looking at a scorecard that's created for each of the initiatives. And the next part of the phase of the strategic planning will include implementation plans, mapping key resource needs, and then also a final report. Members of our work group. Basically here you can see that it is inclusive. It does have administrators, staff, faculty, as well as students who participated. Also, a majority of our members have been working with community partners for many years, and we felt it was necessary to have community input throughout the strategic planning process. In order to have a meaningful impact, we knew it was important for us to prioritize our strengths and address the needs of opportunities within our Commonwealth and beyond with those outside our campus walls. We had conversations with community stakeholders and grassroots organizers who were eager to share their thoughts and ideas on how we could work together in the near future. And I'm going to just click through these just for a moment. I won't mention any names because I think you can glance through these, but this gives you an opportunity to see those that we've had conversations with. By the end of March, basically Work Group 6 had spoken to approximately 3 major groups that included alumni, University Neighborhood Advisory Council, the Sustainability Subcommittee, as well as 29 individuals. Now we'll talk a little bit about the Integration Committee and basically what their charge was. A large one because they are developing the comprehensive understanding of all of the 8 goals. And basically they are identifying additional research and analysis to go with those goals. And they also reporting this in a cohesive strategic planning manner. While this is not an inclusive list, this gives you an opportunity to see some of those who are actually on this committee. And again, as all that I've talked about so far, the strategic plan draft is also an outcome of this multi-dimensional. Now the purpose of the town halls. Why are we here today? Basically, we're here because we want your comments and we need your feedback. And we also have the opportunity to review and also discuss what's really going on and express any concerns, duplications, and anything else that you may see in the strategic plan that you would like us to include. The provost is interested in your feedback, and also our committee is interested in your feedback. Now we're going to look at the 8 goals that were a result of the strategic planning process, and those are now organized over 3 central strategies that the university now has. The first one of those is to strengthen and focus the core mission, and under strategy 1, goal 4 is actually there. You actually have goal 1, which is to create a vibrant undergraduate learning community. Goal 2, advance a high-quality graduate and professional education portfolio. Goal 3, cultivate a robust research and creative environment, and of course, again, our goal. In strategy 2, there is an advancing of community of engaged citizens. And underneath that goal are goal 5, which is to foster a positive work environment for faculty and staff, and goal 6, to become a place of collaboration for people of all identities. Also in strategy 3, we have engage in smart growth, operational excellence, and accountability. And underneath that goal are goal 7, which is to transform the campus, brand, and infrastructure at UK, as well as goal 8, which is to develop a sustainable financial plan. Now we're going to move into the strengths, the challenges, and the opportunities for us, and that will help you understand how that drove the actions and the tactics for which this group came up with. I'm going to just briefly talk about some of these, and of course, again, this is information that we will have, I believe, on the website, Hannah. This is information. So the first strength is that UK is one of 8 institutions in the US with schools in agriculture, engineering, medicine, and pharmacy on a single contiguous campus. Second, UK's campus currently has the community classification for engagement for the Carnegie Foundation for Advancement of Teaching, and we've had this honor since 2006. We've actually just finished the reclassification process, which gives us an opportunity to see where we are, how well-rounded our understanding is of the activities that we have on campus. Also, as a public land-grant institution, UK is one of only 22 medical centers in the country that has earned the trifecta of national federal funding. That's within NCI designation, Alzheimer's Disease Center, and the Center for Clinical Translation Science. And specific to this, these attributes also enhance and deepen and expand our collaboration, particularly with also global partners and our Commonwealth. And then, of course, you can't walk anywhere on UK's campus to not see that we have been doing an amazing job in building. So UK's recent large-scale public-private partnership for construction provides a very strong future of collaborations in that area. To continue our strengths, we talk a little bit about the fact that the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, the Cooperative Extension Service, and Agricultural Experiment Stations are also very comprehensive in outreach and engagement. They cover all 120 counties. We also have a very strong track record in fostering startups in the local business area here in Lexington with UK Research. And the CCO, which is known most definitely by his students, is called the Center for Community Outreach. And it is a student-driven organization established to serve, connect, and unite UK with the surrounding community. The CCO is a leadership laboratory and in community engagement and in student development. And we also are Kentucky's flagship land-grant institution. And community engagement is a part of our institutional fabric. And Kentucky is predominantly rural. We also have issues and challenges with poverty, isolation, also health disparities. So it's very important with our research, teaching, and service that we look at the significant resources that we have so that we might be able to address those needs in Lexington, the Commonwealth, and beyond. Now let's look at a few of our challenges that we have. Public funding for institutions of higher education is declining. The attempts to bolster engagement activities is being redefined in this new environment. The university is highly decentralized, and when working in our silos, we discover that we do not have a university-wide governing or coordinating body that will track changes in engagement and outreach. And this is definitely evidenced in the Engagement Subcommittee Works report that was in 2007 that talks about the university needing a system that is sustainable, proactive, and accountable. The public benefits of post-secondary institutions are being questioned with regard to sustaining the breadth of the mission in face of the stresses with business models and also the increased competition within its core areas. And then finally, existing promotion and tenure processes need to be re-examined if we're actually going to be creating the meaningful impact that we need in the Commonwealth and the community. Now we will move on to our opportunities. We will be able to develop strategies for engaging partners, engaging with them, not doing things to them, not for them, but with them. Build communication, assessing needs, and also sustaining partnerships. We can also elevate the work of the CCO office, which also has which makes it equivalent to the Student Government Association and the Student Activities Board. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Establish a system for recognizing and incentivizing student service, engagement, and outreach, such as co-curricular, transcript, and special diploma or notation. Also, we can utilize current improvements in analytics that we have to provide a systematic campus-wide assessment to measure the impact of our engagement. We can also provide an opportunity to effectively communicate UK's outreach and engagement. I think it's very redundant when I keep saying that. And the many ways that UK can serve the community and the Commonwealth through the new academic branding efforts. And then finally, bolster and highlight best practices of the departments and centers across UK as they work in their multidisciplinary teams and advance their engaged research and instruction efforts. We have centers, we have institutes, and we have departments and colleges that are doing outstanding work in our communities, and we want that to extend. These are just a few of the ones that are doing it absolutely wonderful, and those that we have not listed here, by no means is there a reason why they're not the best as well, but these are just a sampling. A few other opportunities is that with the new strategic plan, there is an emphasis on research and also how they impact the community. And also, particularly for this, we want to talk about engaging our alumni through membership, communications, events, and programs that build the loyalty. And also, we can have them as ambassadors and advocates, and then keep our traditions alive, as well as cultivating them as donors. And then finally, as we grow and nurture our impact and outreach activities, we have the opportunity to enhance funding through seed impact grants to support and advance the initiatives and partnerships. Now we're going to move on into the actions and tactics that the group created. And the first is to reaffirm and clarify our role in outreach and engagement as a 21st century land-grant institution. The first tactic is to expand the campus community's understanding of UK's service mission to capture non-traditional forms of campus community engagement, such as civic engagement, regional development, clinical outreach, commercialization, and translational research. Second, to pursue a contemporary model for community engagement, and that includes effective strategies that coordinate and advocate for and also lead us in our community engagement efforts in our decentralized environment. And right now, a few of those examples could be to develop strategies, again, to engage with our community partners. And then also institute a university-wide engagement council to promote our vision, priorities, and initiatives that advance the work that we do. To follow through with the last of our tactics in this area is to centralize resources and support for student-led and student-driven outreach and community engagement initiatives through the Center for Community Outreach. We know that they're doing many wonderful things, but how can we, again, elevate this opportunity with this center along with our Student Government Association and also Student Activities Board? And finally, identify, integrate, and extend UK's programs and activities that have a sustainable impact on the health and wellness, economic development, education, arts, food security, and the quality of life of the Commonwealth and beyond. Now we're going to move into the second action, which is to pursue and foster sustainable collaborations. The tactics are as follows. Ensure that outreach and engagement activities are responsive to community needs and are evidence-based, transparent, and sustainable. I think that basically says it all. Prioritize and address key initiatives and partnerships with the community of Lexington, as well as our Commonwealth, but to make sure that those are mutually beneficial and sustainable. And sometimes they're not necessarily sustainable, they're one time, but to really look at and concentrate on the things that we can do together. Build a stronger and more flexible network of community, corporate, university partners across the nation to enhance UK's responsibility to be a change agent. And for example, we can be a change agent in the industry, technology and innovation, education, public health, agriculture, arts. We can't be all things to everyone, but we can concentrate and identify what we do best, and then also how we're going to do that with our communities. Celebrate, engage, and grow relationships with our UK alumni, both the present and the future, to enrich our culture of lifelong giving, as well as through community initiatives that may be in the areas that they're located in. Action 3, identify and implement appropriate evaluation and communication for engagement activities. The tactics are as follows. Develop an information system to measure the meaningful impact of community engagement and capture accurate, transparent performance indicators that can be reported to campus and community stakeholders. Establish and track metrics regarding the scope of impact of UK's mission with regard to outreach and engagement. And also engage in visible reporting, marketing, and communication regarding UK's current engagement activity. We do this on a current basis now with UK Now, but as we've talked to many of the people in the community, they tell us, we simply don't know everything that you're doing, and we know that you're doing a lot. We'd love to have you capture that a little bit differently. Action 4, promote a culture that recognizes and rewards outreach and engagement activities and achievements. The tactics are to establish metrics by which the university can quantify and reward successful outreach and engagement efforts by individuals and groups. Provide strong incentives for faculty, staff, and students to engage in community outreach endeavors. Establish an organized system for recognizing and incentivizing student service, engagement, and outreach. And those could be things such as a co-curricular transcript, again, special diploma, or notation. And seek external funding to support outreach and engagement initiatives. As we mentioned earlier in one of our challenges, the university cannot support this work alone. How might we be able to seek out external funding to help us support this? And also pursue nationally recognized engagement awards for our students, faculty, and our staff. They are doing amazing works, and it's time that we do have them come up every now and then, the wonderful things that they do, but it's time for us to look at this and have a more cohesive effort to talk about the wonderful things that our community are doing with our members of our community on campus. Now we go to what have we missed. This gives you an opportunity to provide input. We do have several members of our group here today, actually more than several members, and so if you have questions, if you have input, we are definitely seeking that today.
We see a lot of words on meaningful impact or high impact, those kind of terms are used, and I'm very interested in how your team defined that, because I think it's worrisome to me without a definition to really understand what we're talking about here.
Does anybody else on the committee want to speak to that, or do we want to talk about that as a whole? No? I guess I'm on. Ernie?
I think you've seen from the number of people that we interviewed that we were very concerned with focusing on those stakeholders in the Commonwealth who could partner and indeed have partnered with the University of Kentucky over the years. We listened very carefully to what they had to say from city government to Commerce Lexington on to a host of other important stakeholders in the Commonwealth. It was out of that we tried to sift through in our own thinking what meaningful things we as a university could do. There's some obvious things like public health, the issue of dental care, and so forth. But I think we also heard from a number of people, both within the committee and from our representative stakeholders, that issues of civic education were important. Even more so, concerns with regional economic development. Those were the kinds of things that we discussed over how many months, Lisa?
Actually, since January.
I'm really quite pleased and proud with what the working group was able to come up with.
So if people were asked to report out on high impact or meaningful impact programs or experiences that they feel their offices are hosting, would they be using, I didn't understand it was broad, so like just kind of wide spectrum interpretation to some degree of, oh, I think we fit this, and I think I could argue it this way based off of what the plan is reading?
I think what we're trying to do now, and a lot of that comes with the implementation plan, but really right now, you didn't get a chance to see our metrics. And then also we're looking at opportunities to identify the different definitions that go along with engagement. You've got service learning, you've got community-based research, you've got all kinds of opportunities, and how we might be able to couch those, that is the next phase.
Awesome, and thank you so much for reaching out to all those stakeholders. It's really great.
Yes. Bob, I think you have a question.
Yes, social entrepreneurship is something that the Sullivan Foundation, of course, we have administered the awards, the Sullivan medallions over the years, but the Sullivan Foundation has refocused over the last 6 years on funding initiatives around social entrepreneurship. And I think we have an opportunity of convening past winners of Sullivan Awards at the same time to embrace this foundation, which focuses on smaller, its history is in smaller universities, and the president really wants to work with the University of Kentucky. University of North Carolina is the only other major research university of interest. But it does seem like it's a phrase that you want to consider incorporating. It becomes a magnet, I think, for a lot of initiatives that are going on, and I think it's something that could be leveraged with the community. For example, this year's winner, Deborah Hensley, she's just, this amazing dynamo that if we brought together with students and others in the community, that we'd have a ready partnership to actually make the world a better place. I think it's there for us to kind of put these pieces together.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have any other comments or questions about the plan itself? Anything that we have omitted or you'd like to see strengthened? Sarah?
As a staff member with the CCO, really excited to see us show up in a number of places and appreciate the advocacy from the committee.
Your students were your best advocates, I will tell you that right now, but we also know a lot about it as well.
Curious maybe to hear a little bit more from different committee members about how you define that tactic around elevating and strengthening the CCO, and how the committee arrived at Student Activities Board and Student Government as comparators, as organizations with different missions still within the OSI, but just kind of curious to hear more about that thought
Okay.
process.
Dog Wood, I think, was
Yeah,
more
we have
responsible.
a place as well. I had the great task of organizing our students, from graduate, professional, and undergraduate students, really across the board. And so we were very intentional in making sure that we had representatives from SGA, SAB, CCO, and other organizations as well. And the one thing that came out, the CCO members were very, very proud of the work that they're doing. And it seems for whatever reason, and equally so with SGA and SAB, but it felt like for whatever reason that SAB and SGA sort of were, it was almost like SGA, SAB, CCO. Not that that's intentional at all, but that was the perception that is on this campus. And I think that the students felt like through collaboration, all three of the groups would benefit greatly from sort of elevating, at least even if it's a misperception, communicating more about CCO, making it more visible on the same level with SGA and SAB. And then, Clayton, you want to talk about that? But it was something that came out really, really in a strong way.
I think the biggest thing that a lot of the students talked about was in the beginning of school, they didn't hear as much about the CCO, or that they didn't know that that's really where you got your community service outreach from. And so everyone kind of knew SGA, what they did, SAB schools, but the CCO was this vague thing. And so a lot of the students' heartbeat was that the CCO be promoted just as much as SAB and SGA. So I think that's where the students are really going, is they wanted us to all be kind of three that are working together instead of three separate entities, but something where you know that there's a lot of collaboration and community outreach all together with that.
So do the students not identify Fusion as a CCO program? Because I'm thinking during K-Week, each of
Yes.
them maybe have one substantial thing, and so CCO is putting an enormous amount of human resources into Fusion.
And I think that's, and even with Dance Blue, as we all know,
Right.
people don't associate that with CCOs, but CCOs doing great things and probably outreaching a lot more students maybe sometimes at their events in SG and SAB, but it was that they didn't know that it was partnered
With
with
that connectivity to understanding what falls under the scope of the CCO.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I think one thing to add to that, and I'm glad you mentioned Fusion, while that's an outstanding program, the one theme that kept coming up too, everybody loved Fusion. They talked about that it was so much information during a concentrated or period of time, that could we think about something that would maybe take that idea throughout a term or throughout a year? And I think that's and we've talked about that in the past, and I think that sometimes there's so much to choose from that maybe you could lose some of the meaning there a little bit. and just focus a little bit more. The one thing too that is kind of the background of all this as well, we just got through really with the whole recruitment cycle for fall 2014 for our incoming freshman class. And I had the good fortune of meeting so many of our students in our season preview nights and also through our scholarship interview process. The one recurring theme that I kept hearing over and over and over, and I'm really pleased to say this, and I'm really pleased to say that I don't think our students are apathetic at all. Students said, how can I be involved? How can I give back? How can I be a part of this university? And I think that CCO is just a perfect example that it seems a little bit broader and maybe a little more abstract. So I think that's sort of, when we say elevate, maybe it's just helping to redefine it or refine what it means and making sure that it's very visible. Because I think with SGA and SAB, they do great things, but they are a little bit more specific perhaps in focus. Where CCO could be more all-encompassing for a greater number of students. And I think that's kind of the reason there that we think that it could be really a great part for recruitment and in turn also for retention of students as well.
So one suggestion I might make then, now it helps to hear it explained certainly than just seeing it. And I agree, just the elevation of service and engagement on the student involvement piece would be not to do it as a comparator to the other two organizations, because everyone does have their distinct mission and purposes, but now, so I think it would be, because there are a number of organizations even beyond the CCO that are working with student service and student engagement, and we're actually putting a council together of those organizations so that we can really elevate.
good.
So it might just be something about
Will all these
your
different
language.
organizations be a member of this council then?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Maybe that will.
So it might be that you just want to tweak the language so we
Sure.
don't do comparisons to other groups, because I think
Yeah, I
that's
think it's not so much
competitiveness.
comparisons,
Yeah.
it's more about true collaboration
Yeah.
across the different areas.
Sure.
And I think it reads as a comparison.
It does, and it,
From it, just somebody just reading the document
Sure.
first time.
And I think though that, I think it's important for us though to make sure that the student voices are heard, because they were pretty
Absolutely.
strong that they felt that for whatever reason, maybe they weren't quite as visible in a comparative setting too. So I think that's important not to miss
So
that.
elevating it, I think, and keep in mind too, the CCO is 11 years old
Sure.
compared to your others. So it's a program that's grown
Relatively,
quickly, and
yeah.
we've got great plans for expanding it
That's
too,
great.
so.
I think that's one thing that occurred as a lot of students had ideas for things that we could do for service, and I know the CCO advocates and myself, like, that's already going on. Like, this is how you do it. And so I think just, you know,
It's the
and that's one
knowing.
thing that came up in the working
Yeah.
group too, is like, oh, we should do this. And I was like, well, that already exists. We just need to make it better.
It's making it known.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's,
the same.
that's a great point. I think
Yeah.
that instead of recreating the wheel, you already have an excellent structure in place. Let's just take that existing structure and even promote it even more, make it more visible and more refined for our students.
No, it's great. Thank you.
Do we have other questions and comments? Or suggestions, additions?
I will add something to, I thought of that I think is important.
It's a
related
very
to-
talkative group, by the way.
It's very important, kind of helps clarify this even a little bit more. And this came out during the student interviews, and maybe this relates to that collaboration and maybe comparative nature, which I think those are very important words, and we want to be careful with that, I agree. Part of it is the physical space of these organizations too, and making sure that they felt like they were part of this space. And that's just as important as the organization itself. And I think you all are already very aware of that, and making sure that as we think about the new student center and those plans, that that's on the table as well. I think that came out loud and clear.
And that's, we wholeheartedly agree.
Will those messages be given at all to the infrastructure team? What is it, goal 7? Well, because I think there's some, right, there's some
Overlap.
crossover there hypothetically.
I assume so. Hannah, the information here will be shared with the other teams, of course, right?
Or I'm just assuming with the implementation phase, there could be some crossover
Sure.
between, ooh, we said that and they're doing this and magic happens.
Yeah, in many ways,
Together.
and this keeps coming up in our group, I think that, this is great for the framework, it's the implementation phase that's so
Yeah.
exciting to think about how to really make this tangible and visible and make it really happen. So I think that's a very, very good point that we will emphasize somehow in the implementation, it must cut across to the other team.
Yes, this is the only other thing I would say, and this is not just for this particular goal, but we are using common terms across the different goals. So co-curricular shows up consistently. Experiential education, which you mentioned, but it's also showing up in goal number 1. Service learning is also showing up in goal 1. So it's the idea of, do we have a consistent set of defined terms? Just like the question on meaningful impact and on engagement. I think that would be really helpful if we can, in a way that would perhaps give some breadth versus there being a limited scope. But that is something I'm seeing. I think the inclusion goal also is using co-curricular, and so I think it'd be helpful for just a common set of defined terms across the plan itself.
Appreciate that. And again, the integration team, which Hannah's a part of, that's one of those things that they have to do is capture that, but then also to hear these comments. So thank you so much. Thanks. Any other suggestions or comments?
Another question, Lisa. Just kind of looking at action 1, the tactic around adopting a contemporary model for centralizing these efforts within a decentralized environment. I'm curious where our efforts around the Carnegie and the proposal for a center, where that maybe would interplay in terms of providing that centralized support, which I hear kind of throughout the discussion here, right, related to promotion and tenure, related to the tracking piece. Has that been a part of the conversation at all?
As far as exactly what this means for this contemporary model, I think we've had some conversations around what we would like to see, but as far as the implementation, we have not gotten that far yet. But we do have that information that we can then discuss and say what are the pieces that need to happen in order for this to be contemporary and also inclusive. Because again, early on, and I don't know if the members of the committee remembered this or not, but I did hand out a sheet with all of the definitions and the different groups across campus, because everyone sees engagement very differently, and it's because we're operating in silos. So it's very important for us all to be on one page. But right now, that is an opportunity for this model to create that synergy.
Thank you.
And while I cannot speak to where any proposal is or anything else at this point, I can tell you that that's what we're considering.
Regarding this, I think we took away considerable amount from an informal interview that we had with Waded Cruzado, the president of Montana State University. Montana State is a Research One institution. It has taken seriously the issues of outreach and engagement, and as best I remember, they have an engagement council which has allowed them to promote the visibility of outreach and engagement in myriad ways. And one of the other things that we took from this was in another part of our suggested actions that have to do with promoting national awards for some of our most outstanding examples. My name is Ernie Anarella. I'm Chair of Political Science. I had the good fortune to be on the Board of Trustees for 4 years, and Dance Blue became a very special organization and activity, and it seems to me that it is well poised for some kind of national recognition. I think these sorts of things are important for our students, for our faculty to know about, and also for our administrators to be able to tout.
These also help with our recruitment efforts and what Donovan's group is able to do. Any other comments? Okay, well, we thank you. This concludes our presentation. We will also be having presentations across campus maybe in the next couple of weeks to individualized groups and receiving their feedback as well. But we thank you all for coming today.
Thank you very much.